Kapila Muni herein advises his mother Devahuti that if she wants to be free from material attachment, she should increase her attachment for the sadhus or devotees who are completely free from all material attachment. In Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, verse 5, it is stated, who is qualified to enter into the kingdom of God? It is said there, Nirmana moha jitasanga dosha. This refers to one who is completely freed from the puffed up condition of material possessiveness. A person may be materially very rich, opulent, or respectable, but if he at all wants to transfer himself to the spiritual kingdom, back home, back to Godhead, then he has to be freed from the puffed up condition of material possessiveness, because that is a false position. The word moha used here means the false understanding that one is rich or poor. In this material world, the conception that one is very rich or very poor, or any such consciousness in connection with material existence is false, because this body itself is false or temporary. A pure soul who is prepared to be freed from this material entanglement must first of all be free from the association of the three modes of nature. Our consciousness at the present moment is polluted because of association with the three modes of nature. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, the same principle is stated. It is advised, Jita Sangha Dosha. One should be freed from the contaminated association of the three modes of material nature. Here also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is confirmed. A pure devotee who is preparing to transfer himself to the spiritual kingdom is also freed from the association of the three modes of material nature. We have to seek the association of such devotees. For this reason, we have begun the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. There are many mercantile, scientific and other associations in human society to develop a particular type of education or consciousness. But there is no association which helps one to get free from all material association. If anyone has reached the stage where he must become free from this material contamination, then he has to seek the association of devotees, wherein Krishna consciousness is exclusively cultured. One can thereby become freed from all material association. Because a devotee is freed from all contaminated material association, he is not affected by the miseries of material existence, even though he appears to be in the material world. He is not affected by the miseries of the material world. How is it possible? There is a very good example in the activities of the cat. The cat carries her kittens in her mouth, and when she kills a rat, she also carries the booty in her mouth. Thus both are carried in the mouth of the cat, but they are in different conditions. The kitten feels comfort in the mouth of the mother, whereas when the rat is carried in the mouth of the cat, the rat feels the blows of death. Similarly, those who are sadhavaha or devotees engaged in Krishna consciousness in the transcendental service of the Lord do not feel the contamination of material miseries, whereas those who are not devotees in Krishna consciousness actually feel the miseries of material existence. One should therefore give up the association of materialistic persons and seek the association of persons engaged in Krishna consciousness. And by such association, he will benefit in spiritual advancement. By their words and instructions, he will be able to cut off his attachment to material existence. Here, Lord Kapiladev, who is a great avatar of Lord Krishna, is explaining to his mother the qualities of great devotees of the Lord. What are the characteristics of a sadhu? Sadhu is not judged by external appearance, but he is judged by his words and action. By the qualities that he manifests, he is judged. In fact, in the Vedic literature, everything is judged on the basis of quality. Chaturvarnam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasha. 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. Krishna doesn't give any reference to janma, birth. Being a Brahmana does not mean taking birth in a Brahmana family and wearing a sacred thread. In fact, Ravana was born of a Brahmana family. So this is not the credibility that Krishna expects such Brahmana to have. Similarly, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, the Shudras, or a Brahmachari, or a Grihastha, or a Vanaprastha, or a Sannyasi, all of these Varnas and Ashramas are judged according to the qualities that one possesses. For example, Grihastha is actually a very exalted position. There is a difference between Grihastha and Grihamedhi. Many of you know about that. To be a sannyasi doesn't mean simply to take a vow unless you follow it. For that matter, a sadhu doesn't mean matted hairs and roaming around, or to wear saffron, or shave the head. To be a sadhu is explained that he is one who is constantly speaking the glories of Sri Krishna. So, sadhu is the one who controls one's senses and uses them always in the service of Krishna. Who is a saintly person? Bhagavatam explains, Titikshava Karunikaha Sadhava Sarva Bhutanam. Yes. Sadhu means, saintly person means, Titikshava means tolerant. Tolerant without being disturbed. He is willing to accept any abuse upon himself, but is always anxious to uplift others. That's a sadhu. To show respect to others. To one, no one is his enemy, in fact. He is the well-wisher for everyone. And he is constantly thinking, he is constantly speaking, he is constantly acting for the glorification of Lord Krishna. Now in this material world, everyone is attached. There are 3 modes of material nature, and the whole world is running under the spell of these 3 modes. Some are attached to sleeping, some are attached to taking intoxication. This is tamoguna. Some people are attached to gaining prestige. They're working for that. Enjoying senses, enjoying decorating one's body to acquire more and more name and fame. This is called attachment to Rajoguna. And others are attached to Satoguna. They are attached to doing this philanthropic work. They are attached to hear good classical music, to giving charity, feeding poor. This is another type of material attachment, Satoguna. But it is from Satoguna or Sattva-guna we can transcend the material nature. Prabhupada is quoting a verse from Bhagavad Gita where he says that sadhus or devotees who are completely freed from all material attachment, in Bhagavad Gita 15 chapter verse 5 it is stated, who is qualified to enter the kingdom of God? And what is that verse? It says, Nirmana moha jitasanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvande vimukta sukha dukkha sapner gacchantya moodha padamavyayam tat. In the translation it is written here, one who is free from illusion, false prestige and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust and is freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains to that eternal kingdom. So clearly Krishna is giving us some guidelines over here. But Kapila Dev is explaining to his mother, Devahuti, that the goal of life is to become free from all material attachment. Because as long as there is any attachment to anything in this material world, there is another birth. And then the repetition of old age, disease, and death. So unless we are detached from the modes of material nature, we are forced to suffer the repetition of birth and death. And according to the degree we indulge in the modes of nature by our attachments, there are various levels of existence that we can attain. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravarthino arjuna mam upayatya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet Brahmaloka, which is almost an impossible destination to attain, it is said, ultimately when your pious activities are exhausted, you will fall again to this miserable condition of life. From the highest to the lowest planet, this material nature is a place of misery. So unless we are convinced that the three modes of material nature, any situation in this material world is ultimately miserable, we cannot make proper spiritual advancement. Unless we understand this clearly. Prahlad Maharaj says to his father, what did he say? He said, my dear father, as long as one thinks that this material world is a place to enjoy, it doesn't matter how much tapasya one has engaged in, no matter how much charity he would have done, you will never escape the clutches of birth and death. You have to be convinced that this is the place of misery. Once I was traveling in a train, and very close to me was seated a very wealthy person. We could make out that because he had so many servants all around him, taking care of him. The moment he wants something to drink, there's a servant running to get him a bottle of water. But when I was interacting with that person, I came to know that he was suffering to a terrible arthritis, terrible pain. And he was complaining how much he was suffering. He can hardly walk. That was his state. And at the same time, I saw this one potter who carries this, heavy luggage. He was having a strong body. My God, he was carrying tremendous load and was thinking and was asking, give me more. I'm not done with it. Give some more load. That was the state. And probably he might be sleeping on the street somewhere. That would be the situation. And I was thinking, this rich man will give all of his wealth to get this healthy body like that of the potter. Because he's suffering. He's under tremendous pain. So, what is the real standard of happiness? No matter what you like or what you have, what you would have accomplished, if you are diseased, you are suffering. Or if you are in fear, then also you are suffering. And nothing can change that. The only thing that can change the predicament of this world is to get out of it. There is no other way. Trying to decorate your jail will, what is the situation? It's not a very intelligent proposition. Trying to decorate the jail cell is not very intelligent work if we are doing that. So as long as we live in this assumption or this misconception that we are this material body, we have to suffer. And it is unnatural for the soul to suffer. It is very unnatural for the soul to suffer. Kapila Dev here is explaining that in order to become detached from the pains and pleasures of this material world, this is the process, he says. What is that process? We must become attached to the sadhus, holy men. Not to simply give up our attachment, but to transfer the propensity for attachment from material to spiritual. After all, who in this world can be completely detached from anything? Can we say that? We can be completely detached. It is impossible. The nature of the mind, the senses, and soul itself is to be attached to God. So how can we ever say that we can be detached from anything? And if we forget that attachment to the Supreme Lord, then invariably we will become attached to the three modes of material nature. Simple as that. But to become attached to Krishna is the ultimate goal of life. It's very difficult. But to become attached to his devotee is the means by which we become attached to Krishna, which is easier. Because Krishna reveals himself in this world through the sadhus. There is a beautiful story in Chaitanya Charitamrita that explains how anyone can attain the perfection of life if they simply become attached to devotees. The story begins in one of the loving servants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he was bringing so many devotees of the Lord. His name was Shivananda Sen. No? Best devotee. Who is the best devotee of the Lord? How to understand who is the best devotee of the Lord? This one, the one who is the best servant of other devotees is the best devotee of the Lord. Yeah. So, in fact, somewhere I was reading, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, he used to have a very simple formula by which he would know who is the real sadhu. Very simple formula he had. He would, when some saintly person would come to meet him, he would just ask, are you a devotee of Krishna? He will just ask that, are you a devotee of Krishna? And if the person says yes, he would not talk to such a person. But, if that person responded by saying no, I am a devotee of Krishna, then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will say, I have whole day to spend with you. Yeah. So, to think we can approach God directly is an illusion. The greatest devotee of Krishna are the greatest devotee of the devotees of Krishna. And this is the great benediction all the great devotees of the Lord are asking for. When Dhruva Maharaj was asked by Kuvera for any benediction, what do you want? I can give you that. Dhruva Maharaj asked for only one thing. He said, let me become a servant of the devotee of the Lord Hari. And when Prahlad Maharaj was asked a similar benediction, he said, let me be a servant of your devotee. So this is one benediction all great devotees ask, all great personalities ask. We are seeing that in the scriptures. So Shivananda Sen, his greatest goal in life was to simply, I'll just cut short the thing, was to simply to serve the devotee who are traveling from Bengal to Jagannath Puri. Every year, Shivananda Sen will make some kind of an arrangement for their travel. He would make all kinds of arrangements. He would make arrangements for their food, their lodging, even the fares which they have to pay for traveling in a boat, toll, whatever they have to pay, he will do that. But his only goal was, let me suffer going through all of these making of arrangements and let all devotees be comfortable and have a smooth journey. That was his mood. One day, as Shivananda Sen was traveling with the Vaishnavas, a stray dog entered their camp. And somehow the dog became attached to Shivananda Sen, and Shivananda Sen, he didn't discriminate. Who is the Brahmana, who is the Chandala. He saw every living being part of Krishna. That's all he was looking at. He would give nice prasadam to this dog. And Shivananda Sena, this dog became quite attached to Shivananda Sen. And Shivananda Sen was also attached to this dog, but not material attachment. Material attachment means enjoying the body of the dog. That's what material attachment means. Yeah. Shivananda Sena was attached to serving Krishna, who is in the heart of the dog. So one day they came to a river and they had to cross it by a boat, and all the Vaishnavas got onto the boat. And when the dog was coming, the boatman said, "No dogs allowed." That was the thing. And Shivananda Sena, when he heard that no dogs allowed, he requested that boatman that, he won't go without this dog. You have to take him. Otherwise, we will not be traveling. So Shivananda Sena, in fact, paid a special extra money so that the dog can make it to Jagannath Puri. That was the thing. Some days later, when they arrived in Jagannath Puri, they came to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's house, and when they all bowed down and just see who is sitting besides Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu but the dog. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally feeding the dog, I think, coconuts with his own hands. And the next day, the dog disappeared. It had gone back to Vaikuntha. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals that because that dog was attached to Shivananda Sena, that dog has become the recipient of my special mercy. That dog was not a Vedic scholar, but the dog was attached to a devotee, and therefore the great learned scholars of the Vedas, who actually understands the essence, they pray to be a dog in the house of a devotee. The same way as the dog is attached to the master, they want to be attached to a sadhu. So this is what Lord Kapila Dev is explaining to all of us. Those people who are attached to serving devotee of the Lord, that person we would become most attached. Because attachment to that person alone will bring you back to the spiritual world. Because when we are favorably attached to the devotees, and the devotee is very dear to Krishna, then what happens? Krishna becomes attached to us. It is very natural for that to happen. If you are attached to a devotee who has given everything in the service of the Lord, Krishna becomes attached to you. Srila Prabhupada sometimes, before he starts giving Bhagavatam class, there will be a Guru Puja. Soon after that, I think before that or so, he would distribute cookies to the children. They come in front of him. The children, they don't understand any translation or purport of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada would simply give them cookies before giving Bhagavatam class. Srila Prabhupada would give cookies to all children. And if there was no cookie, he would become displeased. He wants to give. And he would give each one to each child. One cookie for one child. That's how it is. And the child would love him. How much kindness just to make them attached to him. He is doing it. To become attached to me, I'm giving you cookies. Yeah. Knowing that if they are attached to him, they would follow what he speaks. he knows that if they become attached to me, they would follow what I am speaking. When they grow up, they would idealize his qualities and his characteristics. So if we simply can learn to transfer all our attachment to material world to attachment to association of the devotee, the path of liberation will become clear in our life. Because in that association, we would hear the glories of the Lord and get engaged in devotional service. What is their goal? What is a pure devotee, a sadhu's goal? Their goal is to bring us all to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So, when we are willing, when we are not willing to accept the words of a sadhu, and we have our own plans or ideas, then we can understand that we are still diseased, contaminated. The test will come for all of us. Sometimes people ask, when will I know that I am come out of all this? You will know that when the test will come. Where are you situated? Are you situated fully surrendering to the words of Srila Prabhupada, or you are meditating upon your own selfish goals? You'll come to know that. We don't have to say anything specific to it. The test is there for all of us. So, Kapila Dev advises that, Mother, if you want to be disinfected, uncontaminated by the material desires, then you associate with sadhu. This is his advice. O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment. And Prabhupada, at the end of the purport, he writes, one should therefore give up the association of materialistic person and seek the association of persons engaged in Krishna consciousness, and by such association he will benefit in spiritual advancement. By their words and instructions, he will be able to cut off his attachment to material existence. But if we are not willing to learn, if we are not accepting the words of a sadhu, and we want to have our own ideas, then we have to understand that there is still problems with us. We need to rectify that. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.